boom. Gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right. Boom.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to our latest episode of our chicken coop build series. So since we left last episode, I stayed behind probably about an hour or so after completing that episode, and I wanted to mess around a little bit with the roof joists. It's kind of one of those thorns in my side that's really been poking at me. It's pretty intimidating, to be honest with you, to come up with a good rafter system that's going to give me what I'm looking for. With the build height in total, to be able to roll that out through my garage door, it needs to be 6'9" or less. So I'm trying to find a nice looking pitch of a roof that still, when completed, is going to match that dimension to be able to get it out of here. Otherwise, I'm dealing with a roof that's detached until it's outside, and I'd much rather complete it while it's inside. So it actually, infringed a little bit on my motivation today. I really had to push myself to get out here and get started because the rafters are just so intimidating to me. I don't know why. It's just one of those tasks that I need to really beat at it until I get it completed, So I went online last night and I looked at one of the online rafter calculators and I punched in what I was looking for, looking at probably like a 14-inch peak height up from the base, and then trying to figure out the angles and everything from that. So I got a template from that calculator. I'm going to try and recreate it, see if it works out. I've already made 2 rafters that I'm not really satisfied with, so hopefully I'll be able to reuse that lumber somewhere along the lines, or it could just be a write-off. But for the sake of $10 or whatever, I'm willing to go until I get what I'm looking for. So, other than that today, I want to try and get some plywood sheeting done up for the inside walls. I'm not going to attach it just yet, but I do want to have it cut to size and everything detailed with that, and then I'll lay them aside to put them on later. So, with all that said, I think first on the list, I just need to get this devil off my shoulder and get at the rafters first. If just for the sake of test fitting them and knowing that I got the template right, that'll just take that weight off my shoulder and I can move forward a bit more free-spirited. Alright, so anyways, let's get started and try to make these rafters. Alright, so to begin, we'll look at the template that I did up on the computer last night. So we're looking at a 26.57 degree pitch, which gives us a 6/12 pitch. So for every 12 inches of travel, there will be 6 inches in height gained. Alright, so our total rafter length, top length, is 35 inches and 25/32. So we'll probably just be rounding that up to 36 to begin, to cut it a little bit longer. We're looking at an 8-inch overhang and 1 1/4 inch depth bird's mouth, and yeah, so our first cut is going to be the total length, and we'll probably aim around 40 inches to start. Just to cut it, I'd rather have it too long than too short. You can take more off, but you can't add any on. Alright, so that's our 40-inch piece cut. Now we'll start trying to work some angles into this. Alright, so our first angle is the one that's going to attach to our ridge board. So we see on the template 63.4 degrees. So that's 90 degrees minus the 26.57 pitch that we're looking for. So I'm going to put my speed square with the pivot point at the upper corner. And I'm going to pivot that to the degrees on here to 63.4. here's 60, here's 61, 2, 3. Which is right about there. Alright, so that's our line. Now, so just to be certain with this, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go over to the miter saw and I'm going to line up 26.57 degrees, and I'm going to see if the blade lines up with that line that I just drew there, just as a second measure. Alright, so 26.57, so we'll get that as close as we can. So there's 26 and a half. Turn on the light and bring the blade down. See how close we are. So from what I'm seeing, and I'll bring you guys in closer. Is they are not matching up. They're off by a few degrees for sure. So I'm just going to bring the table back and see at what point they do line up. There, they're lined up, and that's at 24 degrees. Right, you see the shadow line is perfect at 24. So now whether or not that's a speed square difference or not, I'm tempted to trust the miter saw before the speed square. Alright, so off camera I did a bit of tinkering around, and I figured out that it's user error is the problem, and that is me. So what I was doing, I was concentrating on this near side of the board for my angle, trying to get the opposite of the 26.5 degree pitch. But what I should have been doing is actually trusting the speed square and going with the numbers here, so pivoting at the top until these numbers counted up to 26.57. So if I do that, ignoring this close edge, go all the way to 26.57, I'll say 26 and a half, right there. Now all of a sudden, the marking is looking an awful lot like the miter. So I'm going to draw a new line, thankfully. Alright, get that lined up on 26. So right there is 26 and a half. Redraw my line. So this all becomes part of knowing how to use the tools that you have, which I am still rather new to. So now, when I line this up, now we're spot on. Alright, our lines are matching up perfectly. So now I'm feeling secure in making this cut, which I'll do now. And there we go. That's our 26.5 degree cut. Alright, so next on the template directions is to measure from the tip we just made down 26 inches and 27/32. So this ruler does not have 30 seconds on it, it has 16ths. So cut that in half, we're dealing at about 14/16. So we'll go to 27 and come back 2/16. Alright, and then from that we're going to have another 26.5 degree angle from there. Alright, so this time we'll put our pivot. This time we'll do it correctly. I'll do 26.5 right there. And draw the line like so. Then I'm going to measure 1.5 inches to the intersection of that line. Actually, we're going to measure up 1.5 inches. So we'll measure 1.5 inches. And then do 90 degrees to that and draw a line for the bird's mouth. So strangely enough, with the speed square, I haven't found a nice way to get a 90 degree angle if it's in the middle of the board, because you kind of got this T-edge. So if you're trying to do a 90 degree angle to that, you can kind of line it up, but it's not very flush to be able to really trust it. So I'm just going to use this other square, use this corner here, line up on line at the 1.5, and hold it there. Now that line could actually be a little bit closer down. Alright, so that looks good. That can come out. Alright, so that's our basic template. So what I'm going to do now, off camera, I'm going to take apart the two rafters that I already have mounted. Strip that down to the ridge board in the middle, and I'm just going to lay this template up against that to see if the bird's mouth is matching up properly to what's up there already. So I'll probably film a little bit of that as we go. And I'll leave this in place just for the test fitting. That looks to be good. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is prepare to cut out this bird's mouth. So since the board is a little bit wobbly, I'm just going to put a couple of clamps on it, because typically when doing these bird's mouth, due to the angle, the saw has a tendency to bind, so you got to kind of hold your guard back when you're starting it. And we'll finish that with the handsaw. There we go. Alright, so here's our newly created rafter. Bird's mouth worked out perfectly. No issues there. Got our overhang, which we'll trim to size shortly. But one thing I noticed at the ridge board, we've got a bit of a gap right there at the top. So we could probably take like a saw's width off of that, just so that it fits properly onto the ridge board, nice and flush. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so now with that saw smidge taken away, nice flush fit. Down to the bird's mouth, perfect as well. Take that, flip it over to the other side. Sit that in place. Again, flush fit for the bird's mouth, flush fit for the ridge board. So other than taking a bit off here at the end for our overhang, we have a good rafter template. And that is a weight off my shoulders. Alright, so what I've decided is a 6-inch overhang. So I had this mounted up on the Coop, measured out from 90 degrees from the Coop to the 6-inch mark, and we're going to take that up with the same angle that we joined onto the ridge board. And that angle is still set on the miter, so it should be pretty quick. And there we go. This is our official roof rafter template. And that feels good. I got to work out now how many of these I got to make, but that's awesome. Sometimes the most intimidating things are just the things you got to do first and get them out of the way. And this was definitely one of them. Okay, so now that all that rafter craziness is settled down and seems to be a manageable task now, feeling good, feeling more motivated. So another thing that was on my mind overnight that I basically forgot to do was this chicken exit door. You remember with my wall vents on the left side wall with the nesting boxes, I put an extra 1/2-inch gap around the windows for that weather stripping effect. I never did it with the door, and I thought back and I was thinking, is it necessary? Do I really want it? Maybe I could do something different with the door, because for some reason in my mind I was thinking it's always going to be open, but I want the option of closing the door and keeping the chickens in, especially in the winter time if there's no run outside or if it's all snowed in. Don't really want this open hole in the side of the chicken coop. So hindsight being 20/20 and all, I figure, yeah, I do want that 1/2-inch gap around the door, and I'll have to make a new door now because the piece I cut out is too small. But I do want to have that 1/2-inch gap weather stripping effect. So what I'm going to do is I'll get my skill saw, set it to the depth of the plywood, and trace a 1/2-inch around the door. So that's what I'll do next. And there we go. That's a 1/2 inch taken off all sides. Alright, so now that we're caught up on that much work and revised a few of our overlookings, so next thing on the list I think is some more plywood. And now that we have the rafters designed, I can actually put up the end rafters and do the outside of the end walls with plywood. And I think that'll be the next thing to do. So I'm going to make a few more rafters. So I have a total of 4 plus the template. So there'll be 4 more rafters that I'll make. And then I'll get those mounted up with the ridge board and we'll attach that up top. And at least then our side walls will be complete and we'll be able to know exactly what we're doing in terms of the end caps and end walls and the plywood that's going on those. So I think that's the next order of business. 4 more rafters. Alright, so what I have here now is my ridge board right here. I found the straightest one out of the lot and that's the one I'm going to go with. And I have 4 of the rafters that I just made. So I got those here and these are done and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start mating these up and attaching them to the ridge board. And I'm going to pretty much pre-assemble the 2 ends and then hoist it into place up onto the base. And that way I can avoid having a support piece for the ridge board itself. If I got it pre-assembled, hopefully it should all hold together and create a little A-frame structure on top which will be able to support its own weight. That way, because when the plywood and everything is done and the project is nearing completion, I'm going to be putting a little vent up in the gable end And if I had a support underneath the ridge board at the end, it would get in the way of me centralizing a vent in that area. So I want to have an A-frame structure holding up the ridge board with no middle support down in the middle. So yeah, let's go ahead and start putting this together. So now that we got the rafters attached to the ridge board, I'm going to lift that up on top and see if we can snug it down into place. Alright, so that actually turned out really well. So I think our next thing to do would be some plywood on this end. I think that would be fitting, so let's do that. Alright, so this front plywood is going to be full height and 4 foot wide. It will not cover the nesting box. So it should be a full width sheet. As far as length, it should be from the bottom there to the top is 62 3/4. Yeah, 62 3/4. So we'll cut our sheet to that dimension, and then we'll put the angle on it. We'll trace that from the other side. It'll probably be the easiest way. Could just draw a straight line on the proper angle, but I'm happy enough to put it up there, trace the angle of the rafter, and then take it down and cut it. I think that's what we'll do. All right, so full width. What was it, 62 3/4? All right, sounds good. Of course, one part of tracing the door involved blocking it, so I got to find a bit of an alternative route to get in. Alright, there's our tracings, and we'll do some cutting. I'm going to leave the corner intact on this one just to keep the whole door from swinging down and cracking. Alright. Now let's find the handsaw and we'll finish off the corners on the door there. Alright, let's get that mounted. Alright, that's the front wall done. So that's pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Alright, making good progress here today. I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to go have a break and get some food. A lot of successes here today, especially with the roofing. Very happy with that. And I may or may not come back out at this again this evening, but as for now I feel enough progress is made for it to be time for a break. I'm kind of beat out for now. And so we're going to call it there. I'm going to finish off this video here. If I come out again later, I'll start up the camera and we'll keep going from there. But this could be it for today. We'll see. But anyways, appreciate you all dropping by. And if you can, like I say, hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and hit the notification bell. Really helps my channel grow, which is what we're looking for. And I'll keep the videos coming to you as we finish this chicken coop. So, in the meantime, be happy, be healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.